Yo, what's up, guys? It's Dom, and you're tuning in to Talks with Dom, where we touch on the serious topics that dives into the creator within. Over time, the goal is to help each and every one of you partake in this transformation to better understand who and where you are on your journey. So let's chop it up, guys. Right? We're off to point two, right? And so this is basically like um, the next door neighbor to point one. Let's just say that, like a part two to point one, right? Which was the things we keep, which is basically um, going into and really questioning why two people can go into certain situations going on in life and leave with two different things. Basically, being able to go into a conversation and leave with two different meanings of the conversation, right? And so, not just saying just a conversation to specifically, meaning just a wide range of things. Two people just going into one door and leaving with two different understandings of what is behind that door, right? And so now, point two is basically going over the system of why of how that happens, right? What's going on in the mind as we're going around these things and what we capture and bring home and be able to be like, okay, this is what we got from that, and this is what I understand from that, right? And so going over a system of going from the root to the result, right? So we got the root, which is sensitivity to possibility, right? Then we got the mechanism number one to that, which is inner interpretation. Then we have the mechanism number two, which is imagination. Then we have mechanism number three, which is expression, and which results to creation, right? So now going over the root, sensitivity to possibility, right? Um, One thing that I want us to keep in mind though, before we go off into it, is the fact that we can't narrow down creativity to just talent, because talent is just a tool, right? That's something that's a part of us, right? So keep that in mind. I just want to keep that in mind as we're rolling, right? Um, but so we're going off to the root, right? Sensitivity to possibility. A creative is first born through sensitivity, right? A feeling when something has more in it than what's currently being shown, right? So then let's think about it like this: like a blank space is not just emptiness, right? What we see is more than a blank space. We see it in like the potential in it. So let's just say for like a music a music artist and everything. So it's just like myself and everything coming into a space and seeing nothing, just an empty space. In my mind, I'm seeing a studio, I'm seeing couches and stuff like that. I'm seeing acoustics, I'm seeing instruments, I'm seeing computers, I'm seeing desks and stuff like that. Right? We're coming in, being able to see the potential that's there, right? And we going into like being able to hear like silence and everything like that, right? So we're not just it's not just hearing the silence, right? What you're hearing is what can fill that silence, right? So then, like when you hear that silence, it's something in the back of your mind that's just like, okay, I see what can go there, right? And not just saying it just like consciously, just more subconsciously, just in the back of your mind, right? That's sensitivity to possibility, right? So now we're moving on to mechanism number one. Oh, and actually, I have one more point. I'm sorry about that, right? We have pain, and not only feeling that hurt, right? We asking, what is that trying to reveal, right? So this is still in like sensing the possibilities, right? Having going through pain and not attaching to how it hurt us, but we're attaching more to what is that trying to reveal, right? Later on in the video, I have something else that's basically going to attach to that point right there, basically just that example right there. But we're going to get to that, right? So just moving on, right? That's sensitivity to possibility, right? Mechanism number one, inner interpretation, right? After the creative senses possibility, they begin to interpret it, right? Feeling like once you're trying to interpret that, right? You sense a possibility, now you're interpreting it. In our mind as a creative, that's like the first point of like labor as a creative, right? That's the hidden labor of a creator, right? The questions that's going through our mind is like, what does this mean, right? How did this affect me, right? Why did I notice this, right? These are the kind of questions that are being juggled in the mind, right? Before a creative expresses anything, they have to make meaning of it, right? So just a normal person can just go through something and then simply just call that a bad day, right? As a creative, right? That thing can happen in our life and then we can try to decode it, right? Just like the point of what I said of having pain, and instead of focusing on the hurt, you focusing on what is that trying to reveal, right? As a creative, this is what's going on subconsciously in our minds, right? A creative goes through it and starts decoding it. That's inner interpretation, right? Inner interpretation is where experience becomes perspective, right? So then again, that's the mechanism number one. Now we're going into mechanism number two, right? Which is imagination. Once the creative interprets what they are feeling, um, imagination steps in, constructing, right? So now think of a motion of just going like this, right? So instead of just going like this, which is basically something that's operating in one motion of just going forward, right? I feel like in imagination, it's more things can be over here, things can come over here, it can flow this way, it can flow that way, flow this way, and just continue to go in different directions instead of just one motion right here. Because in imagination, it's more of trying to figure out this puzzle, trying to find ways to be able to piece this together, right? But it's imagination, like you're picking from different parts and trying to figure out how to put this all together to truly figure out what this thing is, right? It is the mind taking pieces of reality and rearranging them into something new, right? A memory connects to a question, right? A feeling connects to a vision. A problem connects to a solution, right? A wound connects to a message, right? So now going back to that point of having pain, right? And instead of feeling the hurt, instead of talking about the feeling of the hurt, you're asking more of what is that trying to reveal, right? So now going back to this, a wound connects to a message. So let's just say something had happened 2 years ago, right? You went through a certain situation or anything that caused pain, right? No matter how, and everything, mental, physical, you know what I mean? Like spiritual, it could be anything, right? But that thing caused pain. But then and there, you really didn't have the clarity of why that was, like why that happened in your life until you gain clarity down the line, right? And then now you start to think back to that thing that happened and be like, oh, okay, now I see why that needed to happen the way that happened. And then now you take that situation and now you just got inspiration from that thing, right? Now it's just kind of like a dang, like that's why like that needed to happen, right? I can use that situation now and turn it into this. Now you're turning that into power for yourself to be able to create from that, right? And so that's imagination though, right? Where the unseen version starts forming, right? Before anybody else can see it, the creative has to carry it internally, right? You got to truly be able to have that within yourself, right? This is why imagination can feel beautiful and heavy, right? It can feel beautiful because you see what's possible, you see the possibility, right? That's the reason that it can be beautiful, but it can also be heavy because you're the one that sees that, right? But nobody else can fully understand and see it just yet because it's all happening internally, right? So imagination is where possibility becomes vision. All right. Now we're going into mechanism number 3, which is expression. So let's rewind back, right? So we're going from the root, sensitivity, to possibility. Then we're going into the first mechanism, which is inner interpretation, right? Then the second one, right, which is imagination. And now we're on to the third one, which is expression. Expression is where the invisible starts becoming visible. But by the time people see the expression, the creator has already gone through the root and the mechanisms, right? They're going through a full system, right, guys? They sensed, they interpreted, they imagined, and now they're releasing, right? Expression is translation, right? Taking something internal and giving it a form other people can interact with, right? So different forms can be like a video, can be a movie, can be a book, can be an art piece, can be an outfit, could be a poem, could be all types of forms, right? Expression is not easy, right? An idea can feel perfect in your mind, but when you try to say it, record it, write it, build it, right, it may not come out the way that you truly wanted it to come out, right? Um, and that's not saying that you aren't creative or you're not as good of a creative. No, guys, that's truly just us going through the translation stage, right? We're trying to translate that, right? um, yeah, so we're trying to translate that, and so taking something internal and giving it a form other people can interact with can truly be a challenge in times of truly trying to understand it and get it to its full potential, right? um that's the translation stage, wrestling with form, right? How do I bring the invisible to the visible without losing truth to it, right? That's expression. Expression is where vision becomes language, right? Now we're going into the result, which is creation, right? So 1 second. Now we're going into the result, which is the creation, right? So creation is the evidence, right? It proves something invisible survived the full process, right? Sensitivity to possibility, which is the root, sensing, feeling it, right? Mechanism number 1, interpreting it. Mechanism number 2, imagining it. Mechanism number 3, expressing it, right? And so now we get the full result, right? Which is the creation itself, right? It started as possibility, then became interpretation, then became imagination, then became expression. Now it has form. That's creation, right? It proves an invisible process. Creation is possibility made real, right? So um, that starts with a person sensitive enough to feel possibility, right? Aware enough to interpret what they feel, right? Open enough to imagine what it could become, and brave enough to express what they see, and disciplined enough to turn it into creation, right, guys? So being able to understand that full system of coming from sensing to the full creation is the way that we kind of like, it's like the system that we go through on a day-to-day subconsciously as creatives, right? So going back to the first video, or point 1 of topic 2, which we were talking about two people going into a room or just like a door and coming out with two different understandings of that door. Now you start to truly understand, if both of those people went through that system, right, from sensing all the way to the full creation, you have to understand that, like, that process is different for two people, right? That process is taken different, totally different, right? Different things are sensed, different things are interpreted, different things are imagined and expressed, like in different ways, right? Which creates that final thing to look totally different from this thing, that thing, right? From something that you would say, from something that I would say, right? these things are, regardless of how that happens, right? That system is like the standard. That's what I can say. Like it's really like the bottom line is that system, regardless of how it happens and when it happens, right? Sensing to the full creation, right? With the mechanisms in the middle, however you put those, it goes in that system regardless, guys. And so being able to think about it like that, right? I hope that it wasn't too jumbo, like too just jumping from here to there, right? I was more uh focusing on like my notes and everything, as you guys kind of noticed of me just going. So this is me really just trying to um help to really be able to give you guys just a tad bit more quality when it comes to truly understanding these certain points, guys. So um, just bear with me as we're going through these videos and points and stuff like that. Only better that's coming, right? But as we're going, guys, um, I want to be able to give you guys that system, right? And we're going to be able to implement that same system in different points that we talk about, right? We're going to be able to bring that system into the points that we talk about, right? Sensitivity to possibility system, right? So keep that in mind. Keep those 5 steps in your mind as you're going through your day to day, and just see how that happens for you. Just see how that rolls out for you, right? It's a better understanding of what's truly going on when you're trying to create, when you're being a creative, right? Why you or why you create the way that you create, why you are the creator that you are. Like it's just like that system right there could help you out to go along with that, right? Um, and so, really, guys, just in just into the next one. You know what I mean? I feel like that's really I feel like that like this point is dope, right? If it's anything that I went over, just like I had said before, if it's anything that I went over today that you guys feel like that I could dive deeper into, just leave it in the comments, right? Just let me know in the comments, guys. Let's start a conversation about these things. Let's keep this going, right? So, into the next one though, guys.